Hello, I am Carl Schlierman, and I am a solutions consultant with Beyond 20. The purpose of this video is going to show you the new Cherwell version 961 and to take a look at the new form UI. And what I want to do is show you what level of effort it takes to take an existing form from an older system and to be able to move it into a new 961 environment and to give it the new UI look and feel. So as you can see, we have our 961 out of the box installed. And I just want to quickly show you that we can go and take a look at the incident form. And you'll notice that we now have our default form is set to show this really abbreviated information for the incident form. And then there's this new form called Incident Overview. And so if we take a look at the incident overview, this is now showing you essentially the rest of the incident form itself. So now you have two different components of the incident form. So to further illustrate that, we can go into our rich client and we can go ahead and create a new incident. And you'll notice that this top part up here is our default form, while that overview form that we saw in the admin client is what appears down below in one of our form arrangement tabs. So now what I want to do is go back to our admin client, and then prior to getting into this 961 environment, I went ahead and I mapped the business object that I want to bring into this system. So I mapped it in the old version, and then I applied the map to the 961 version so that I brought the old form, all of the one steps, expressions, stored values, and now I have those already in my new 961 environment. And so if I go ahead and take a look at the form for this, you'll notice that we do have a default form that's already set up. But when I map this in, this is essentially what my old form looked like. You know, it has the old look and feel from the 953 system that I've mapped over. And so now what I want to do is I want to take this information, these different fields, and then I want to move them into the new format where I have my default form and then I have that overview form. So I can have that same look and feel as the other 961 objects. So to start off with, this is the only form for this object that existed, and it was originally listed as my default form. So now that I want to make a change, I want to replace my default form with some other default form. And so what I did is I went over to the problem object, and then I looked at the form for the problem object. And so here we can see, well, this is our new default form. And so what I did at this point was I click on Edit, select all. It automatically selects all of those elements for this form. And then I'll copy it. And then I'll move over to my business object that I want to create that new default form. And I'll simply go up to Form, New Form, and we'll just call this Default 2. And so before I go ahead and I paste that new form in, what I want to do initially is I want to set my form to incorporate the new features. So the first thing that you'll want to do is you'll want to apply a theme that has been created as part of 961. And so that theme is called Prussian Blue. So now that I have the theme applied, I also want to resize my form window. And so we'll go ahead and we'll make it a new width. So the new width for the form is 1340. And I'm just going to go ahead and give it a height. We can always adjust the height later. So now that I have my form dimension set up, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to paste the form from the problem object into this form. The next thing that I'll want to do is I want to change the background color, and we're going to use dashboard background color, form background color, to give it that white background. The next thing that you'll see is that all of these values are taken from the problem object. So I'm going to have to go in and modify all of them to utilize the different fields in this specific business object that I have created. So for example, this is no longer a problem object. So I'm going to go ahead and just give it a name. And then, I'll also want to change my token here for the problem ID. And we're going to get rid of that. And I'm going to put in the field that would do the equivalent for an ID number. And so once I get that, I can go through and manipulate all of the other values that you have here. And this is how you would customize your form to really display the information that you have. If you don't have a resolve within or any type of SLA, then you can remove those labels and fields, and you can customize this to meet whatever desired display that you want. Also, you'll want to pay attention to some of these link labels that we have on here that execute one steps. Because if I go into the control properties, you'll see that I have a one step selected here, but this one step was for the problem object. So I will have to recreate or import in whatever one step I use for advancing status. Sometimes you'll need to recreate them and make sure that it's under the association for the new object that you're working on. Once you have all of your one step set up, and you have this form finalized the way that you want it, the next thing that you'll want to do is you're going to want to set this particular form as your new default form. And so to do that, you can click on Form, and then you can select this option where you can make this your default standard form. When you do that, you'll get a prompt. You just simply click yes. And so now this is my new default form for this particular business object. The next thing that you want to do is you want to build out your new updated form arrangement. So if you recall, you can see here on this overview tab that we have a new form that has everything else that is different than what you have in the default form. This has the new look and feel that has a different font, different background colors, and just different sizing on things. And you'll want to make sure that you incorporate your new form into this type of view. And so to do that, you can go and create a new form, and we'll go ahead and call this PS Backlog Overview. Okay, it's going to give us a new form, and we're going to have to go through the same process where we're applying a theme. Once again, we're using the Prussian blue theme. And then we're going to go ahead and resize our window and make it 1340. And then your height will depend on how big your form is. So for this example, we're just going to go ahead and make it 600 for right now. And we're also going to set the minimum width to 1340 as well. The next thing we'll want to do is change our form color. We're going to change the background color, and we're just going to go for a simple white. Now that we have this new form set up, what we want to do is go to the old form that we had imported in from our mmap, and we're going to want to select all of the elements that we're going to bring into that new form. So I'm just going to go ahead and select all, and I'm going to copy those elements. I'm going to move over to my new PS Overview form. And then from here, I'm going to go ahead and paste all of those elements. Now, before we had the theme set, And that theme included some of the different fonts and the color around the text boxes. And so a lot of that formatting has already been applied to this form. So now at this point, what I can do is I can go through my form and start removing those elements that I no longer need to display on this particular business object. At this point, I have re-modified my form, and I've been able to move the different fields around and give it that look and feel that I want to have, and removing the elements that I no longer need. And so now we can see that this is my overview that I want to use. And then I can go, this default is the one that I want to use for this particular example. So I've gone through and I've modified it. I've made all my one steps match to advance the status. I've put in required fields and made modifications to the text color to give it that required look if needed. I also had to modify the expressions in the created and last modified so that instead of having them point at the project object, which we copied from, I had to make sure that we were pointing these at these particular fields that we're using for our new business object. Now that I have my default form and I have the other form, the overview form, the next piece that you need to do once you have your forms created is you need to go into your form arrangement for your business object. Now that we're in the form arrangement, you can see that I have my default form here at the top that is showing me the very basics of this particular business object, the status, and then my submitter and owned by. Now what I want to do is I want to add an additional form as a tab to my form arrangement. So the overview form that I created, I can simply click and drag it over. And now you can see here is the form that I want to use and associate to the default form. You can go in and modify the properties of that particular tab. You can rename it. If you want to simplify it and make it look like the other overview tabs on the other business objects, it's just simply named overview. You can add a tab image if you want, and then just make sure that you have all the information filled out as you need. And then once you have it completed, you can go ahead and save the business object, and then you're ready to begin publishing and testing your new form. Now that I've published my blueprint, I can now come into the Rich client, and you can see that we have our record populated. It's created in a new status. It auto-filled information as I needed on my form. And now I have that new look and feel that is part of Cherwell version 9.6.1. It gives you that same look that Incident has and Problem and all the other major business objects. And now you've taken your form and converted it to the new look and feel to make it a cohesive environment. And so that's the type of process that you'll need to repeat if you have existing forms and you want to bring them into a 9.6.1 system and you want to have it with that same look and feel. Thank you very much for this opportunity to show you some of the new features in Cherwell version 9.6.1. I hope you found some of this information to be helpful with development of your own systems. As always, if you have any questions or need to seek out more answers, please visit our YouTube channel for Beyond 20. We have many videos out there on different topics, and thank you very much.